Hey, this is Jillian Johnsrud, and I'm really excited in this lesson to talk about the idea of the quit list. You've done all this work. You've figured out your Be Have Do and your ideal day and your superpowers and your recipe for success. And you know what you want in the next 5 years and 3 years and 1 year to look like, and what needs to happen, what mile markers you need to hit in order to make progress. Now, where does this come from? Where do all of these extra resources come from? Where do we get the time and the money and the energy to focus on this so that we can actually make progress? And I think about it like a poker game. You're sitting at the table and you're like, this is a good hand. Actually, I think this might be a great hand. And you've got your chips, and instead of like betting the minimum, you say, you know what? I'm going to push it to the middle of the table because I want to go all in on great. I'm willing to sacrifice good to get that thing that's great, that has captivated my attention and my interest and my passion. And I want to give it the very best chance it has. So there's 3 ways that we can go through this process. First, it's figuring out what we're going to stop. And this is the easiest thing because the things we're going to stop, they probably shouldn't have been in our life anyways. Like, they weren't really serving us well. They were never going to move us towards our goals. It's kind of like stuff in the junk drawer. Like, we don't even know how this really ended up here, but it is here. So there's things that we're going to stop. And when we think about our quit list in whole, I think about it comprehensively. I look at our budget, I look at our schedule, I look at how we're using our energy, what hobbies we're doing, our physical possessions, all the things that encompass our life, our relationships, all of these things, like which ones can we stop? We went through a decluttering, a minimalism, and we got rid of half of our stuff. We just stopped and we said, you know what? You're not working hard in our house. Like, you're not really serving our goals. You're not moving us forward. Like, you need to find a different home. And we rehomed half of our things. So there's things that you can stop. You can stop it in your budget. You don't need to be spending money on that because it doesn't accomplish. You look at all of those goals, all of those dreams, it's not moving any of that forward. So you can stop it in your budget. You can stop some relationships. You might have toxic, difficult relationships that it's not helping either of you. There might be hobbies. There might be, you might be binge watching Netflix. There might be habits that just aren't serving you well, and you can stop. The second thing is we can pause some things. And the things that we pause are things we really do want in our life. Maybe they're things that are on our Be Have Do list. They're in our ideal day. Like, this is the real stuff, but we're not going to do it right now. My husband loves hunting, and that's part of his ideal day. That's part of his Be Have Do. But we said, in this season, we just need to hit pause on that. I love raising ducks. I'm kind of obsessed with ducks, truth be told. But I said, in this season, in the next 1, 3, 5 years, we're going to focus on traveling. We're going to focus on more family time and more adventure time. And ducks don't travel well. So we had to hit pause on that, knowing that as soon as we're in this next season, those things are going to come back into our life. And maybe you hit pause for a short period of time. You're like, you know what? I want to make a ton of progress. I'm paying off my debt and starting a new career. So I'm going to go into side hustle mode. I'm going to learn new skills. I'm going to create more income. And so I'm going to hit pause for the next 6 months on Netflix. And I'm not going to watch any TV. I'm not going to do any social media because I'm going to go all in on this thing that was on my ideal day that would move me forward in my goals, but Netflix didn't make any of those lists. So I'm going to hit pause on that. Maybe in 3 months and 6 months, I'll start, I'll catch up on my favorite shows, but not right now. And the next thing is not yet. There are things that we know when we look at kind of that long-term Be Have Do or ideal day, we know that it's out there, but we're choosing not to do it yet because we need to make a lot of progress in other areas. Ever since I was a rather young child, 8, 9, 10, I loved residential architecture. Like I've always been fascinated with it. Like the idea of building something that's interesting and beautiful has always captivated me. And I knew like that's something I want to do someday, but not yet. So instead of doing that when I was 19 and being like, oh, we're going to go out and I'm going to like build something myself and it's going to be beautiful, I said, not yet. Instead, what's actually going to move me forward in my goals and give me the financial freedom and the financial flexibility to do that someday is we're going to move into a camper. And so our first married year, we lived in a camper, and then we lived in a tiny apartment, and then we lived with a roommate. And then if you've read my blog, we bought like the ugliest house and we renovated it because all of that, it was not yet. Like it wasn't yet. We weren't getting that long-term dream right now. We're saying, you know what? Not yet. I still want that someday. But not yet, because I want to take a ton of progress on these other goals that are going to set me up for that thing to happen in the future. So think about the things you can just stop, the things you can hit pause on, and the things you can say, you know what, someday that will be part of our lives, but just not yet. Right now, we're going to make some very different choices to give us the freedom and the flexibility to make that a reality and craft that quit list. You know, sit down and look at your time and your schedule and your energy and your relationships and your habits and your budget and how you're spending your money and say, how can I double down on all of the work that you've done up to this point, on all those things that you're like, this is the core of what matters to me, what will create that meaningful, fulfilling life. How can I double down on those things by crafting this quit list? So I hope that helps, and I'm excited to see you in the next lesson.